Hey everybody, thank you for joining us today. Security and decentralization. There's only... Ooh. Are we good? It sounds quite fast. Maybe? Okay. Welcome to Security and Decentralization Day. There's really only two times you get to talk about security and decentralization. It's either going to be an Uber bull market or a bear market. And today I think we're kind of more in the latter. So happy to have everyone here. It's timed well. Over the course of the day today we'll have some great panels. We have some great sponsors. So I'd like to thank first and foremost all the sponsors who decided to support the event today. Very exciting. Secondarily, I'd like to thank all the panelists who came out. These weeks are intense and brutal. There's loads of panels, there's loads of alcohol, there's loads of talking. So we appreciate everyone taking the time to come out and teach all of us about what they're working on and add value to the topics in which we want to talk about today. So to get us kicked off today, we will selfishly start with a bit about Obel. We recently made some large transitions and announcements as a project. And it's my honor to welcome Toma up on the stage, who is the CEO of the Obel Association.
Hey, friendly faces all over. So I'm actually Belgian, so it's actually super fun seeing like all these people I've met in all over the world finally come home for me. So welcome to Brussels. Hopefully you have a good time, enjoy some lovely Belgian beers. Not too many, but yeah, they're quite strong. Cool. So yeah, I'm the CEO of the Obel Association. It's a new entity focused on the decentralization of Obel and the consensus layer. So that's what we're going to talk about for a couple minutes, the consensus layer, right? So we won't bore you too long with all the great stuff that Obel's been doing in the past years. Like we all know, we're all friends. We'll keep that boring stuff for the ECC talk later this week. But today I want to focus on the future. Seeing all the partners, the sponsors, like people running DVs, like how do we take this to the new heights, right? So it's actually interesting to go back and talk about the consensus layer, right? So as you know, Ethereum is quite a modular stack, so we have the execution layer that does like scaling through its own way via L2s and apps and all this stuff, and then we have data availability layer that scales through like OpenDA and Celestia and all that stuff. But sometimes I feel like maybe the consensus layer, the staking layer, doesn't get the love it deserves. And so that's going to be our mission moving forward as Obel, is decentralizing and strengthening and making that consensus layer more secure. So how do we make the consensus layer more secure? Many ways, right? I really liked this map that was on Twitter a couple of weeks ago, showing all the distribution of nodes across the globe. And I think geodiversity is a good place to start. So we definitely want more dots on this map in more places, run by independent node operators all over the place. We want more infra types, whether that's Kubernetes, whether that's Docker, different clients, Lighthouse, Geth, all you want, right? But today is kind of tough to get to that diversity and while avoiding the pitfalls of centralization, especially at the consensus layer. And I think that's really where the value of DVs are. It allows you to bring all of this diversity within the consensus layer without increasing the risk that layer is suffering from. So this is kind of, well, what we've been focused on, and we're super delighted that the market also sees value in that. So today we have about $1.5 billion in TVL commitments across distributed validators. So that's super exciting. 200 new operators that's been onboarded thanks to Obel DVs. So these are new people that previously could not engage in the consensus layer. So that's what we mean by making the consensus layer more diverse and welcoming. It's 35 countries. And then for all the geeks out there, it's also Charon V1, which we released recently. So for the maybe less technical people, releasing V1 is actually something very important, and kudos to all the development team and Oshin Kain, who's been leading that from DV Labs. But just to give you a bit of a barometer, right? Like Solana is still on beta. We're on V1, so that's actually something we're very pleased about. So Charon is really that engine that's powering all of the distributed validators that we know and love. But we have a couple other things. We also have the Obel splits, which are a set of smart contracts to distribute the staking rewards across the different cluster operators. it's actually funny because it's becoming now a standard across the consensus layer, including from our competitors. So Obol splits is really that other very important layer. And then we have the Launchpad and SDK, which are like UI and tools to help you deploy distributed validators, whether you're solo staker, home staker, or if you're more like a programmer that needs like programmatic access to the SDK. So I'll try not to fall on this thing. We'll see if we keep it on. And finally, the last thing is technique credentials. So what we notice is it's quite hard as a new operator, and I suppose I see a few t-shirts, there are a few node operators today. It's hard to get included in the consensus layer today. There's like many different standards and pools you need to like pitch to show your work. And so that's what we try to do as you stake at here. It's like, nodding, it's tough, right? To get included. So what we're hoping with technique credentialing is to have like a non-chain verifiable credential showing anyone who earns that has the ability to be part of that consensus layer that's strengthened through DVs. So that was the last product we released, and we're really excited to see it like being adopted across different liquid staking pools out there. So definitely encourage you to check it out. All right, so that's all I talk about the past overall, just like a quick intro, and I want to talk about the future. So the room today is very diverse. So we have ABS, liquid staking pools, restaking protocols. We have development companies like DB Labs and Heremans, who's been building a lot of our V2 research on permissionless cluster. And then we have all the DApp nodes of this world, and Mysterium and Avados building like tooling and making staking on DBs really easy. And so when I look at this, it's all well and good, and we have like obviously the stakers as well, which are in the end the only thing that really matters and we're all going after, right? But it's still quite a fragmented experience and consensus layer. And while it's all well and good to have this infinite garden of Ethereum, sometimes a bit of coordination also helps, I believe, in really getting everyone towards a shared vision of how we can strengthen really that consensus layer. And that's why I'm like super pumped today to introduce the Obol Collective, which is that group of individuals in this room, communities, projects that are all aligning on that shared vision of how distributed validators can really help strengthen the consensus layer. So why is it important? Again, the modular architecture of Ethereum makes it that the weakest link is the one that defines it, right? So we have about $1 trillion of value today on Ethereum, so the other layers are taken care of. So the Obol Collective is really going to focus on that consensus layer. But from the previous slides, right, we have very different entities. Some of them are like for profit, others are not, some are like big, some are small. And so it's kind of tough sometimes to figure out how do you fund the operations and the projects and the team as the individuals, the solo stakers that are actually driving the most value to that layer, without always focusing back on the same actors. So one of the main things for the collective is going to be to actually try to find sustainable funding for these participants that are driving the most value. And so that's what we call the 1% for decentralization. If you're running distributed validators today, you know that we collect 1% of staking rewards. That's something we're really proud of, to have a sustainable economic model. But we don't want to do some random buybacks for a token or whatever. Like, what we're focusing on is growing the consensus layer, right? So 100% of that 1% we collect, we plan to redistribute to the members of the collective that are contributing the most, subject to governance, obviously. So that's where you really start seeing a very positive flywheel effect coming, right? Like, the more you contribute and you're helping the consensus layer decentralize, the more you might be eligible to actually receive back from the Obol Collective as a contributor. So that's sort of that flywheel we'll really try to kick off in the next few months, and that I'm excited about. Who's part of the collective today? So many. I probably can't cite them all, but we have Core, Second Layer, DSRV, many others like solo stakers, and I hope that like next time I'm on this stage, there's like twice as many people on that slide, right? The collective is open by design. It's many different type of people and interests and projects, and so maybe what I can leave you, and then we'll go to the panels, is how can you get involved if you're interested in being part of that flywheel effect of strengthening the consensus layer and potentially getting rewarded for that through governance. So it depends who you are. We have different profiles, as I said. If you're a liquid staking pool or restaking pool, get your node operator sweat of DVs. Many leaders in the field have done so. I think it's becoming the standards, so go for it. If you're a validator operator, just run DVs. whether you're through a pool or through your own UI, it's worth just running DBs and learning how to do it and putting it in your own infra. If you're an ETH holder, you're at the core of all this, right? Choose to stake on DBs. That's what's really helping the consensus layer. So choose DBs. If you're a solo staker, and I don't know if there is any, probably I've seen a couple earlier, choose to squad stake. I see nodding over there. So squad stake is actually coming together with other maybe people holding the technique credentialing and actually creating a DB as solo staker, so you still uphold all the values of solo staking like you wanted to from the beginning, but you get that peace of mind, you get that uptime, you get that resiliency, so you can enjoy these Belgian beer tonight without worrying about missing that annual proposal you've been saving for. And then you have dev and product team. If you're building code, if you're building like tooling for staking, make staking with DBs easy. Build another client. Current, it's all great, fantastic work, but we need more clients as well. So plenty of code to ship as well to make the consensus layer more secure. And then if you're an educator, a researcher, do your thing. Make research, make posts, and you'll be part of the collective, and we can start working towards inclusion. So this is what I leave you with. The collective is open. We're all working towards that shared vision of strengthening the consensus layer, as I think it's really important. If you want to be part, come chat to me or to the rest of the team. We can set up a work stream together. We have a lot of panels coming up, I believe, from our sponsors and VIP. A lot of spicy take out here, so hope you enjoy the rest of the day in Brussels. And yeah, see you later. Cheers.
All right, thanks everybody for listening to those two welcoming addresses. So our first panel is on a topic near and dear to my heart. I've got to change the slides here, but I'll finish talking first. So we're going to talk about correlated slashing, correlated risks. Who's heard of correlated slashing before and feels like they kind of know what it is? Okay, maybe roughly half the room. Obviously it's something we hope will never happen, but you never know, so let's talk about it today. And who better to lead the conversation than Terrence, who is an Ethereum core developer. So let's get some chairs up here, let's pass the microphones around, and we'll change the slides. Please welcome the panelists to the stage.
Where's the computer at? Seems like accident. I don't understand.
Squeeze here, so.
You can take a seat.
Check. Don't want to obstruct the camp.
If you're sitting at it's fine.
So we're going to give Terrence a permanent mic, and two of you are going to have to share because you're going to
Hello. Hey guys, I'm Terrence. I am a consensus dev, and this panel is actually very important to me as someone that's implemented correlation risk feature on the client and on the spec. And it's really cool to be moderating this panel along with them. And yeah, thank you for being here. So, want to take a second to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi everybody, my name is Ushin. I'm CTO and co-founder of DV Labs, and I'm working on building distributed validators.
Within that role, part of support development of the proposal, which is nice way with the system standard.
Hey everyone, my name is Joe. I'm one of the co-founders of Aztec. We're building a decentralized privacy-focused layer 2 in Ethereum. So happy to be here. Thanks.
Awesome. All right. So let's just get straight to the point, right? The first question we must ask ourselves is, what are correlated risks?
Great, thanks for giving me that one. So correlation is simply things happening at the same time, and preferably it's generally a bad thing. You wouldn't want it to happen. right now, a correlated risk, there's kind of the two main ones. There's a correlated safety failure or a correlated liveness failure. A correlated safety failure is when a load of people get slashed at the same time. A correlated liveness failure is when a load of people go offline at the same time. If we want to build, Ethereum to, never go down, never go offline, we want to minimize this as much as possible, and that's where, things like correlated flashing or like punitive ways can try and change things. But yeah, we want Ethereum to be up and online all the time, so we want to minimize correlation as much as possible.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, and I would say too that so often when we discuss staking, it's in terms of the staking reward rate, SNRR, and people tend to cite the fact that staking is actively participating in running and maintaining the network. And so, what are we doing here? We're building a global distributed platform and ledger of running high value applications. And so it's really important to make sure that as we're doing that folks are operating that in a responsible way that's resilient and secure. And so the penalties are really important for Ethereum to make sure that that behavior is incentivized.
Yeah, for me, I think there's correlation that's outside of the tech as well, like regulatory or kind of service providers that we just come to rely on, like AWS, Azure, and I think that correlation we haven't seen yet, but something we worry a lot about on the censorship side. So it can be more than just kind of bugs and clients that level. There's a much higher level if you think about it long enough. That's quite scary as well.
Is there a way to quantify correlation risk in a way? Say, for example, it could be client, it could be operator, it could be geographic, like AWS, GCP. Is that how you guys look at this as well, or?
Yeah, I think pretty much, as Joe alluded to, there's more than just the clients. A lot of the time, essentially, Terence and I worry about the clients failing in a correlated manner, but yeah, people really forget how much of, single points of failure are all over the stack, particularly not in the core protocol, and they're often very poorly understood. People don't really want to highlight them. No one really wants to tell you where they're running their nodes. So it's a very hard to be objective one. It's very subjective, it's very kind of grey, but we kind of all know that they're out there. They're kind of grey swans instead.
Right, so then what has the Ethereum community done to perhaps defend or mitigate or discourage this correlation risk have you seen today?
Yeah, I think the first thing is just dashboards and awareness. There's a load of great dashboards, kind of everything from who are the builders through to censorship dashboards, and I think having good data on what's currently happening is the first place to see where we can start to address the problems. But yeah, I think it starts with data.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think that while there's a lot of different proposals and research going into how this can be addressed at the core protocol level, one of the most successful that we've seen is just these coordinated educational efforts. And so it's encouraging to find that when people actually understand why it's an issue to have a majority client or why is default tolerance important, then folks take action, and providers too. So it's been really cool seeing some of those initiatives.
Yeah, and not to shill our own book, but the Liquid Collective and Opal released a research into correlated risks in Ethereum more broadly, and I highly give it a read if anyone wants to get into all of these in a big summary format. It's really well put together. You should all take a look.
Yeah, I think one thing that I will also mention is that today, you get slashed more if you fail together, right? Today, Ethereum built in the protocol has this inactivity fee, and also have this compounding penalty, meaning that if today you get slashed and then everyone gets slashed at the same time, if there's more than 1/3, then you lose everything, right? But if you get slashed by yourself, then you're probably okay. You probably just lose one, it sucks, whatever. But if you get slashed together with other people, it's a lot worse. So that kind of discourages people to basically running the same validator at the same place, running the same client software. But as we learned, right, people are really bad at estimating tail risk, right? No one really care unless failure happen, right? Is there a way, from you guys' opinion, to further discourage that?
Yeah, I think that one area that's really interesting is looking at how you can narrow in on exactly what you were describing, which is operators who are replicating the same core practices across many generations. And so one area that's really interesting to me is a recent post that Vitalik did around the idea of implementing correlation penalties from the start stations, which is like a very small ding and a signal that someone is operating across many machines. And so changes like that can actually narrow in and target the behavior that's going on the Genesis action network is really effective and across just this kind of broad sequence statements that maybe don't have as those takers earlier.
Yeah, and to echo that, I do think bringing these penalties into liveness, so just when your machine goes offline, will help a little with this like tail risk around slashing. Because everyone goes, there is no slashing, it's fine, like I don't need to worry about this. But fairly regularly we have like a liveness outage where like a decent chunk goes offline. I think Ethereum's lost finality at least once or maybe twice. If you have an outage like this, I'm pretty much a proponent that you should like lose a month of rewards and all of a sudden go, damn, I'm gonna like pick a long tail staking solution all of a sudden. I don't want this to happen again. And there's more than that as well. I know the Nethermind team have done a lot of research into like anti-white labeling, which is, you know, trying to detect, hey, you all look like different companies, but you're all, you know, running the same stack under the hood. But yeah, I think if we bring it into the liveness penalties, even if it isn't, you know, crucial for consensus, if, you know, things go offline and it's designed to tolerate offline, if we penalise people, it'll change their behaviour, and people will be like, okay, I better like move in advance and not wait until the first mass slashing and go, I didn't know this was going to happen.
Yeah, I think the risk and why it's been a bit slow to maybe be kind of moved into liveness is just it opens up other attacks as well. Like you can have DDoS attacks now for like, can I make you offline? And I think, yeah, these systems have to be able to tolerate that Wild West as well. And like if someone's got a large validator set and you can force them to be slashing out for liveness, it's a scary world. So just resilience across all forms of slashing, I think need to be thought about.
That's awesome. And you guys are all obviously builders of like great companies, right? So what have your product offerings, or what have you built within the company that help to mitigate this correlation risk?
I think I've gotten this far without talking about distributed validators, but I'm pretty immediately going to say if you run a distributed validator, you can have a piece of your stack fail and your validator stays online. So this is a great way to hedge quite a lot of risks. We talk about like data center risk or like particular client risk. If you have, 4 machines and each of them have different execution and consensus layers, if any one of them goes offline, you'll stay online, and everybody else will hopefully get like a liveness penalty and be like, oh sweet, okay, that's good to hear. And similarly for node operators and all the way down, you don't want Hetsner to go down and everyone starts to get like heavily penalized. So TVs will do a lot in that regard in my perspective.
So Liquid Collective is an enterprise-grade liquid staking standard that's built to be built around by distributed grid industry players, and so the stake is distributed across a diverse set of node operators, and all of those node operators are required multi-cloud, multi-agent infrastructure, builders in place. We've also been doing a lot of work over the last year on developing node operator performance standards, which is a nice objective benchmarks for measuring how well operators perform. So that we can hold those operators responsible for really having both a high tier of performance and also mitigating the risk to the business operations.
I think we're on the opposite side. We're kind of consumers of hopefully a live Ethereum that never goes down, and for us we care a lot about this. Just we care about privacy, and we've seen Ethereum's kind of liveness and censorship resistance be tested. And I think just putting this top of mind, we want to always be able to run privacy rollups on Ethereum. So that's why we care about it. We're also designing our stack to be decentralized, so we're trying to learn which parts of Ethereum should we not replicate when we design our own kind of sequencing set. So we're thinking about it from that side as well, but mostly from keeping Ethereum censorship and neutral would be great.
That's awesome to hear from different perspectives. That's amazing. I guess one question I have is that as a code developer, as someone that's pretty entrenched in Ethereum governance, right? We looked at the future of the roadmap, right? Is there anything that is in the roadmap that basically, in you guys' mind, that you would like to have, right? Say today you have this magic wand, you can make one wish come true in the Ethereum protocol that will help to further to further encourage decentralization, like what would that be?
Can I get 2 wishes? More block space and inclusionless as soon as possible.
Those are really good ones. I mentioned the idea of like related optimization penalties, and I think there's a lot of exploration around that idea of how you can really target in to refine who's subject to these penalties.
Yeah, for me, I'd probably echo Joe's previous answer around like censorship. If I could have a wish list item, it's very hard to do, but I would love to have a perfect Ethereum is extremely censorship resistant and very hard to kind of be blocked. That is a tough challenge, and I was even asking Terence about it like before getting on the panel, being like, how are we going to figure this one out, inclusionist or otherwise. But yeah, that'd be definitely the wish list item for me.
Yeah, censorship resistance is definitely very important. Like currently, like you have this eventual liveness, for example, like another cash transaction. Eventually it gets included, right? But it gets included like 40 seconds later, and that's not ideal. But then we also worry about like this one particular censorship that we will have to hard fork. For example, for optimistic rollup, if today someone submit a fraud proof and that transaction just gets censored 90% of the time, right? Then what do we do, right? Do we hard fork? That's also ugly. We don't want to do hard fork, right? So how do we solve that? Basically solve that for the future. So. Is there, I guess, now coming back to the other side of the question, that are there anything that worries you that's going on, that's on Ethereum, that you don't basically, it kind of worries you, it kind of keeps you up at night, right? Something that will hurt, like, basically this like decentralization thesis?
Issuance curve reduction. So is the longer debate. So the issuance curve reduction is perspective that some researchers will have that say, oh, it'll be bad if the vast majority of Ether in the world is staked, because then all of a sudden there's protocols that have big influence, and particularly in a world where Ethereum isn't very censorship resistant, it's like how much power are these protocols going to have. However, I'm really dubious of the fact that issuance curve will fix the problem, and in fact I think it'll make it much worse, because in practice it's really expensive to run a solo staking node, both from a capital perspective and even a hardware perspective. If you nuke the issuance rewards, they go down to 0.004% or something very tiny. The only people that can be profitable at that at that level that can cover their server costs are the largest of entities. And yeah, we're afraid of keeping Ethereum neutral, keeping it censorship resistant. If you destroy all of the security budget, it's just not going to happen. So that'd be probably my biggest fear.
Yeah, I'm seeing there's been a lot of issues that come to like this with timing games and how timing games relate to block propagation and network. Overall, across a lot of different research papers, there's a lot of work being done on how to mitigate the impact of timing games. And I think that, just like you were saying, it's really important to make sure that the peer isn't worse than this and that folks, when they think about these solutions and they're trying to make it at a high level, it's done in a way that helps keep growth in a distributed and responsible way while still trying to mitigate the environmental effects of that.
Yeah, I think I would just say more centralization in builders that we're kind of still just ignoring, and I think that just keeps me up at night a bit. I think builders are kind of the ones playing some of these timing games, and it gets worse with blocks. And so if you're trying to build a roll up and there's a risk you can only get 1 in 8 blocks, you've got maximum six blocks that you can use. Throughput starts to be an issue as well. So I think there's just a lot of correlation between the censorship of builders and actually how much throughput you have on Ethereum as a roll up.
So I want to go back to just Ethereum governance, how we decide things, right? And I'm partly at fault at this, right? And most of the researchers in that are, right? Because of I think sometimes we kind of lack communication, and then we just merge something in, and then it becomes the next EIP, right? And then it becomes the future. And some people are shook, some people are like, oh wait, this is going, I have no idea, right? And then I guess from your perspective, is there anything that researchers can do better in terms of like engaging with the community, in terms of like getting feedback and stuff like that. I think like issuing is a very good example just because like it has generated a lot of discussions over the last few months, but then at the same time it's just like we don't know like where it's gonna end up, and it may just become a popularity contest, right? So if everyone said, okay, that is in, right? So how do we like prevent that?
Yeah, I think this has happened recently with kind of like pre-confirmations and some of the research there, and I think it's great ideas, and it's like you start with like a base roll-up, which is like a cool simple idea for sequencing, and then it gets overloaded with other things. And I think part of the issue is people don't fully understand when something is going to be set in stone, and so they see these ideas and they're like on the forums and on each research, and they don't know when it's actually decision time. So it's like a scramble when they think a decision is going to happen. So I think maybe more clarity on the roadmap to getting to a decision would help people know when to pay attention and when it's just a research post.
That's a really good answer. I was going to say something similar, which to your point of not wanting to turn into a popularity contest, it's so encouraging when those researchers do engage with the community and get into the debate and actually talk about these things. But there is definitely a gap, I think, in terms of building broader education and awareness and understanding of business and mapping and that thing. And I don't know that the researchers are the ones that need to be doing that work because they're makers and really doing development. So the interesting is that this is able to come up with a background for people with broader understanding.
Yeah, I think for me the difficulty at the moment is that the researchers are like 3 years ahead of where the builders are, and it's very hard as a builder to kind of engage with some of those posts. They're like, I'll worry about it later, and then all of a sudden it goes considered for inclusion, 2 weeks later it's included, and then you're like, actually hold on, we have a big issue here. And that really sucks as core devs to be like, come on man, it's been like 2 years, but you're at the same time being like, yeah, but you know, there's 10x more proposals than there are like, you know, that makes it in, so it's kind of painful on both sides. Like all of the core devs are like, you know, like it's really painful for you now to have, you know, changes in opinion from Petra, like what are you doing, like this has been around for like years. And yeah, I just don't know how to square that circle between, you know, planning stuff years away versus, you know, things to implement now. And everyone that is building goes like takes issue with stuff that they have to ship in the next 3 to 6 months, and all the researchers are like, please engage earlier. But yeah, I don't have like some perfect solution for it. Obviously the researchers do want to get as far as possible and have a load of intentions, but yeah, I guess like patience when people come and like take issue with stuff after it's long been finalized in like research land, I guess.
Yeah, that's a good one. From where I can see, we have research on one spectrum, we have implementation on the other spectrum, right? But you have to almost meet in the middle, but sometimes it's just like, it's hard because like a lot of research are now in the open as well. So I have been like personally encouraging to put more research on the open and then ask for feedback, right? And then I think that's something that everyone here is more than welcome to challenge research. If it doesn't make sense, you should challenge it, right? And then people are almost very welcoming for challenge. For example, all the issuance debate, I find them very helpful. And maybe to tie it back, one last question. People want to learn more about DVT or try DVT or even play with DVT. Like how, like basically what do they do? Like how do they get on board?
So certainly for anyone who runs it, I would strongly suggest them just to get out, set it up on Holski, aim for, you know, getting into one of the big protocols. Most of them are trying to get more and more host takers involved. When it comes to like developing on it, frankly, we're, you know, way less mature than the EF in terms of like, you know, research forums. We have one at community.opal.tech. Would strongly encourage you to go and get involved, but it certainly is something that like, yeah, getting involved in like a future roadmap can be difficult as an outsider. It needs to be more built in the open, it needs to be more like on GitHub, but yeah, certainly from taking part, I would say, you know, it's all out there, go set it up, run the nodes. But yeah, would love some feedback in terms of how people contribute. It's actually what Kamal said early on, is like, if you're a dev, if you're a launcher, if you're trying to like build something on top of TV, be part of the collective. It's something we're trying to figure out, trying to decentralize more and get a bit better at it. So yeah, advice welcome to some extent.
For DVT, talk to Opal.
Yeah, they're the same. It's my homework. I'm going to go and try and set someone up with it.
It's also my homework as well. I'm going to go home and try. Well, thank you guys, and thank you for the panelists. It has been great. I learned a lot.
Alright, I hope you all enjoyed the first panel. I realize we have some audio difficulties here, so if you are interested in the panel, please make your way to the front.
Anytime you have, sorry, 10 minutes? Michael? Michael Labs. Oh, hey! Do you have, by any chance do you have 10 minutes? Or are you busy?
Jay, in general, like, it's pretty
Okay.
If you're coming to our event on Thursday, the Solo Speaker event, have you signed up for that?
I don't think so, but I can.
Otherwise, it's already like super sold out.
Okay. Are you gonna be around STC by any chance? Otherwise, I can probably just ping you.
Yeah, tomorrow is like Thursday.
Just by the way, I have a hearing Thursday.
Come to our
Perfect.
Yeah, it's not a big deal for you. I don't mind.
They designed the award. Another mine.
You want to just celebrate?
It's cool, actually. And then the one how much blind deaths here? How much Bitcoin? I mean, it's still probably.
I will send you the text. If it doesn't work, it's okay. I can just.
What are you doing now? You nested or?
No. I'm still doing research. I kind of shifted toward more technical lower layer for P2P networking. Just wanted to see what are my interest in terms of research. Being collaborating with the Ethereum Foundation on block propagation and stuff like that. So
I didn't.
I just wanted to catch up.
Yeah, definitely.
All right.
I mean, Thursday morning should be okay, but if not, like, we can figure out something else.
Totally.
Just message me something.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Yeah, of course.
Observing like all this thinking and now yes. I think so. That's it. I don't know if I have a bottom line.